I forgot to preface one thing that I meant to say at the beginning, but I didn't because I was so intent on rambling, was that I'm always glad when people enjoy a movie. Even if I didn't like it, I'm like, I'm glad when somebody has a joyful experience.
Yes, totally.
And this film is so much better constructed than Batman versus Superman.
Well, I've heard the argument that like maybe Zack Snyder should only be allowed to make 4-hour movies that come out on HBO Max, because when you've got more time, these slow burn character arcs like we saw in this, I feel like they can come out better. But when you have to really compress it, then you're losing a lot of that.
I think it would have been done well as a series, which it kind of was, because you get your parts 1 through.
Oh, I took a break at the halfway point.
Epilogue. Yeah.
I had to chop it up over a couple portions.
I was going to take a break. I was going to watch it over 2 nights.
You just loved it so much.
And then, well, I said that first half annoyed me, but there were good things in there for you, even as much as I keep saying that. Then I stayed up till 4 a.m. watching this thing, which admittedly I do that a lot, but
we see your tweets.
How ironic! I woke up at 4 a.m. to watch it.
Oh wow! You guys were two ships passing the night.
I just imagined 2 ships with each of them on it, and as they pass,
why did you say Martha?
4 hours is, and maybe this is just the grumpy old man in me, but my personal opinion is part of the art of movie making and script writing is being able to condense.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
I think a bunch of things in the Snyder Cut could have been cut down. The massive Amazon war was there just to see a massive Amazon war.
Yeah, that's one of the few things that I'm like, that's better in the Whedon version because it's about half as long. We didn't need nearly as much of that.
No, we didn't need the Helm's Deep of the mascara.
What did you guys think of Wonder Woman's like that orchestra or that like vocalizing theme they used for Wonder Woman like 80 times in the Snyder Cut?
You know, I was into it. Yeah, I was like, one thing that the Marvel
you guys are
movies,
the opposite of me on everything. That's the one thing
the Marvel movies do. I think
it's on my list of things that annoyed me. Okay, Sam.
They do a bad job with leitmotifs, I think, in general in Marvel because they have broadly sort of unmemorable scores. With Wonder Woman, I didn't like, hey, Xena-esque war cry quite as much.
That's
but
the part I hated. Yeah,
I was like, at least there is a musical theme for her.
You're a bunch of Xena haters, and it shows.
No, hey, hold up. Hold on. I want Xena war cry or not. I didn't want a weird in between Xena war cry.
Okay.
Xena's war cry belongs to Xena.
Yeah, that too.
Zine-ish.
I love the Superman music they used when Superman returns at the end of the Snyder Cut. It felt so triumphant.
That
and
was
the Man
nice.
of Steel that
was a nice moment. And
did you
also,
catch the bar of it in the Whedon cut? The old John Williams.
It was
theme?
so out of place though. It was like when he was like fighting the flat. Well, the first time
he was clobbering Batman.
Yeah, it was like, why is this the hopeful Superman theme? It's just so random.
It was weird and distracting. It's kind of like Alex complaining about either do a Xena yell or not. It's like either make use of that music or don't.
Well, they did the same with Batman's theme too. It was just
they played it outright. They blatantly they played a lot more of the Batman theme, especially late in the movie when he's driving through the Chernobylish town.
Right.
I hated the last song, the very last song. It was a bad rendition. I was saving around. I was just hanging around to see if there's anything at the end.
Oh, the Hallelujah.
God, that was a bad version of Hallelujah.
Yeah. I just.
Oh man, it was
I must have blanked on that part. Was it during the credits?
Yeah, it's in the credits.
Okay, that's why.
It was awesome.
I did not hang around for the friggin' credits. Was it the same Hallelujah from Watchmen?
No, it's worse than the Watchmen version.
Oh, okay.
It's much worse. Ears bleeding.
I hate all use of songs in this movie.
I love that freaking Iris West song.
Songs. I didn't like it, but I respected it for being very Zack Snyder.
Isn't there another song where they sing when Lois Lane is first bringing the coffee to the grave or something like that? There's a lot of singing songs. And they lied or something. I can't remember what. That was a good one. I like that song too. I don't know.
Did you notice the cop who had 2 different roles?
No, I didn't.
No.
Well, it's between the 2 versions. He had played Jimmy Olsen in the old Christopher Reeve movies.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And so he's a cop in the Snyder versions. He's one of those cops that she brings coffee to, but then he's working at the prison in the Whedon version.
Yeah,
he has a side job.
Okay.
Maybe that's it. It's his side job. Is he
Yeah.
also checks people in to visit people at the prison.
In the extra long version, he was an Uber driver too.
Oh.
The gig economy affects everybody, man.
Especially when one man is hoarding so much of the wealth.
Yeah.
Because you are such a knowledgeable source of Batman lore.
Yeah.
How did you feel about first Batfleck and then like the Batman portrayal in these?
And the killing.
Well, okay, we got all these issues. The Batfleck casting in the first place, I was actually one of the people whose tweets got quoted by the Associated Press on that one. It was back when the casting had first been announced. I just tweeted a comment that I remember Michael Keaton can't be Batman. Heath Ledger can't be the Joker. Anne Hathaway can't be Catwoman. And so I said I was very open-minded, and I was, and honestly, for what Snyder was doing, Batfleck seemed to fit it. It's with the casting of Batman, it depends on the story they're telling as to who's going to work. Like, you can't take Adam West and insert him into the Dark Knight. You can't take Heath Ledger and insert him into the Cesar Romero role. So some of it will depend on story. Plenty of people out there that can play a good Batman depending on what story they're telling. Like if they were doing Batman Beyond, there's a point at which I think Clint Eastwood would have been good for old Bruce.
absolutely.
Although if they do it now, it's got to be Michael Keaton.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah, it has to be.
There may be a universe where George Clooney was in a good Batman movie.
Huh.
Up to
I
that
want
point, he was the
really-
one that looked the most like the character.
He was okay Bruce Wayne too. He
He's a great Bruce Wayne, yeah.
But he didn't do the voice. He was the first one of the 89 on actors who didn't do any version of the voice. With Kilmer, it was more subtle than with Keaton.
Right.
But Clooney didn't do the voice. It was like, why didn't he do a voice? Did he not see these other movies and learn? Or like Kevin Conroy independently figure out, I've got to make him sound like this guy who's not sound like this guy who's publicly known?
Wait, you're telling me they didn't put their heart into Batman and Robin?
You know, when he has the poster in his office to remind him not to do movies for money, you know it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Whenever I do this for my office, I'm here with Christian Bale looking over my shoulder.
And I'm here with Kevin Conroy looking
So
over mine.
Affleck's casting in and of itself, Affleck actually has a lot of range. He can play a variety of shows, more than a lot of people give him credit for. So it will depend on story, direction. So that was, and I remember the last part was about the killing. What was the middle part of you? You had a 3-part question.
Oh, didn't I ask about? Oh no, Justine, you asked about a bunch of other stuff about.
Well,
Ben
I
Affleck.
asked about the casting and how you felt like Batman was portrayed, how his character
Okay.
was.
In terms of for a long time, for a really long time, my answer on why Batman does a lot of things in Dawn of Justice, particularly the killing kind of stuff. A long time, my answer was because Zack Snyder. It's kind of like my answer on the Star Wars prequels. My answer was because George. But there was an interviewer based on reading something I'd said in Batman Psychology. I was talking about how after Jason Todd died, which has apparently happened in the Dawn of Justice Snyderverse, after Jason Todd died, Bruce got more violent. Batman was more violent, hurting himself more. It's one of the few points in his career where he fully met a solid set of symptoms of PTSD, because he doesn't always meet a full set. He definitely has some, but not a full set of symptoms. And he was on a destructive past and self-destructive, and until Tim Drake shows up and helps him get grounded and focused and more careful again. And an interviewer asked me, so could it be that what we see with the version that Affleck is playing grew out of that point in Batman's career, but with a Tim Drake not showing up? And I had to say, you've got a point. Even as important as it is to Batman not killing, this is an important personal thing for him. He's also brought up that he very much thinks he's capable of killing. He believes he's capable of killing. He worries that if he does, he'll keep doing it again, even if the resurrected Jason Todd tells him that's crap. But this is what Bruce thinks about himself. So after that, I can see where there's a path where Batman could have wound up like he is in the Snyder movies. This is not how he's normally depicted. This is not what you normally hope is going to be the future for Batman, but I can see a path where that could happen.
Well,
And on the issue of killing, the thing that makes it just not make any dadgum sense. If Batman is killing, why is that clown alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him saying, "And I will kill you." At the end of the movie, I was like, why is he even alive now?
yeah, it's like, no, you won't.
It's not said quite as explicitly, but Bruce does seem to have grown between his two Snyder movies, and he's not killing people in this one.
Mhm.
He's killing parademons left and right, but
Yeah.
it's already
It's
been
not
established they're
gratuitous
undead.
anymore.
Yeah. Also, well, he doesn't go up against any people in this one to kill, does he?
That's true. No human. They're all just
No. The only time we see any of the Justice League fighting humans, I think, is when Wonder Woman
when
goes
she
and
kills
kills
all of
She
them.
goes in her killing spree.
Yeah. Man, there were a couple points where I like smacked my head with frustration over Batman with guns. And one is when he kills the power on his ship when the parademons are coming in. And I thought, okay, now we're gonna get like a classic like Batman stalking the enemy from the shadows kind of sequence. Then he's like, psych, here's some Gatling guns on the Batmobile. I'm just gonna gun them down. And I was like,
What they could have done is put Bruce in a situation like everybody's in their own different aspect of that battle that shows off their skill set. Puts Bruce in a situation where he's stalking a parademon in like a part of that lair that makes him like, okay, only Batman could take down a parademon in this way, rather than, I don't know, give him a gun.
No, I was gonna say the same thing. I feel like there's so many things they could have done that would be more Batman like, rather than it's like, here, I'm done. He didn't actually have any thought process to go, to get to that point where he's shooting people like he's in an arcade.
He's in Halo. Yeah. Well, Zack
Yeah,
Snyder,
Halo.
he really, really likes depictions of human muscular form and depictions of power. And
Right.
to me, it felt like he wasn't especially interested in exploring what makes Batman interesting and competent in combat.
Mhm.
He just kind of had him run around, punch some guys a bit. We didn't see him do cool Batmanish stuff the way that we got to see the other characters do cool stuff in fights. Because I think Zack Snyder was it felt like he was more interested in showing these godlike powers.
In 21st century movies, Batman's not as smart.
yeah.
Well, it makes me think too, because a lot of people I know that do like Affleck's version is because it takes on after like the Arkham games
Mhm.
and the fighting style, especially in Batman Superman, that he has when he's beating up all the guys.
Right.
That's straight from a video game, and then you don't see that at all in this one.
Yeah.
I've always been a proponent of a Batman movie where he's just 100% detective.
Right.
I've heard that,
And it's supposed to be in the new movie. He's supposed to be
Snyder.
much more detective.
That's why I'm excited for the Robert Pattinson version. Yeah, especially with the Riddler as the villain.
Yeah.
yeah.
I would love to have seen a Nolan Riddler. I've said this so many times. I would love to have seen a Nolan Riddler. And it also gives you the requirement to see a smarter Batman, which, okay, the Christian Bale Batman was never written in a way to take on that kind of Riddler, though.
On Alex's point, I think there was an interview, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was an interview with Snyder where he said something like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Batman was like super violent and used guns and stuff? And I remember I watched it on one of those YouTube critiques, and it could have been edited, obviously, but it seemed like one pretty streamlined, uncut portion of the interview. But it would explain a lot of how his portrayal of Batman came to be.
Well, it's in a number of old interviews when Snyder had talked about why he would never want to direct a Superman movie.
Yeah, he's like, I don't get that guy at all. I'd never want to do Superman.
When he talked about how one of the things that bothered him with superhero stories, was them not killing. I think it was not killing and having sex, but I know it was not killing and something else.
Not killing people is what separates him from
Punisher.
From the Punisher,
Yes.
from bad cops. If Batman kills people, then that just makes him a crooked
Judge,
cop.
jury, executioner.
Judge, jury, executioner. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the Punisher tells those cops not to idolize him.
Yeah.
The other day on Twitter and Facebook, I mentioned that interviewers tend to ask me the same 6 or 8 questions over and over.
Mhm.
And one of them is about the killing issue. Well, it kind of replaced one. It used to be one about early on. People were always asking me something about Robin, often indicating something about a sexual thing, and that kind of got replaced by the issue of Batman killing.
Right.
And just me throwing that out, it then led to these two guys getting into an argument on Twitter, on and on and on about the Batman killing issue. And the first time I ever had to mute a conversation because I remained added throughout the entire thing.
I mean, Michael Keaton kills though, so I mean,
He does.
He does.
Tim Burton's
Gratuitous.
version.
He
well, it
does.
lights people on fire with the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Tim Burton only had a few depictions of Batman to pull from. Yeah, one of Michael's main jobs was to try to steer Tim toward the right versions. It's like don't give him the silly stuff from the 50s or 60s.
Mhm.
So he gave him the first year of Batman stories, in which there is more killing. It's arguable about whether he's killing humans though. Except the first story, he punches a guy who falls into a vat. He's fitting into his kind, but it was plagiarism from a story of the Shadow. He shot a vampire. He hanged a monster man, and so, but he was there was something not fully human about those who he was killing in the first 2 years, and not as often as a lot of people think. But so Michael gave him the first year. He gave him the stories of Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, and they're run by Steve Englehart from the 70s. So, and clearly Burton got a hold of the Dark Knight because he was definitely influenced by that too. So he had rather limited knowledge of Batman. And
Sure.
he was pulling from this very specific slices where he just flat sees, okay, Batman does some killing back in that first year.
We have to find what we like or don't like about portrayals and have to accept that there aren't going to be perfect portrayals of these characters, with the exception of Batman the Animated Series, because they all mean so much to so many of us, but they mean so many different things to a lot of different people.
That's the strength with the fictional heroes.
Yeah.
Talking about why should anybody be admiring or analyzing fictional heroes? Because when the real world's heroes let us down, like you find out Lance Armstrong was doping and ripping and ruining the careers for some people who were trying to tell that. You can't just go, that's not my version of Lance Armstrong, unless you're like his mom. She gets a different version.
Hulk Hogan is racist?
Who knew, brother?
Well, and Joss Whedon, what a
Right.
Oh, there's Joss. We did not get into that, and we were
No.
even talking.
We didn't. We had so much Zack, because of Justice League, so much Snydery stuff. But like, as somebody who my most intense fanboy years were devoted to Final Fantasy VII and Buffy, the Joss stuff was a real bummer, man.
Yeah.
Well, what we had decided, and whatever I do with this video, and people can know, is that we had decided that we can talk about fan reactions to what's been said about them, while we're not judging what had been said about them. We're not there. We weren't in those conversations, but we know a whole lot has come out about Whedon gaslighting his wife while cheating on her repeatedly, and he's never denied that. These recent things about him treating him just being an ass to people on set, he hasn't denied those either.
Yeah.
We heard, James Marsters talking about the treatment of him. That would have been 2012, I think, was when Marsters was telling us about that, about how Whedon was constantly saying, "It's like you're gonna die." Is that he there was this edge that he wanted. Yeah, he wanted his resentment toward the romantic vampires to be felt by James Marsters.
Yeah,
So even regardless of how much of these things are true and how much they should matter, can you separate the creator from the art? Fans have trouble with these. And we're going to get into that again this summer when we do the one on Harry Potter fandom.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to be doing one related. We wanted to go ahead and do it, but Wizard asked if we would wait until an anniversary. Which is at the later in the summer. So we'll talk.
Did something happen with Harry Potter? J.K. Rowling tweeting something?
Nothing happened at all, dude.
No. Okay. Good. I can just
so with these people, it's like the bit of separating the creator from the art. If someone composed a beautiful symphony, and then you find out horrible things about that person, it doesn't change what that symphony in and of itself does to the nervous system, but your associations may be too powerful. There are people say, I'm not going to endorse, not going to support. There are people I can separate and ignore. There are some actors I'm going to have trouble with.
To me. Yeah.
It creates a cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
And when you have a cognitive dissonance that you can't reconcile, it causes a lot of conflict in you. And then you either end up choosing one side and not being true to the other side that's equally valid, or you end up confused and scared.
And that cognitive dissonance is going to be particularly strong with some of the things we're talking about, because how important they were to people personally, when they felt like it was part of them developing as a person, figuring out what you love in life, and learning and thinking about life lessons and how you live your life. Whether it's wanting to go to Hogwarts or so that will make it hurt more. It'll have this deeper quality where you've got to make some decisions about, what does this mean to me? Am I able to appreciate the fact that it's part of the history? It meant to me what it meant to me then, even if it doesn't mean that to me now. Does not mean there was anything wrong with it meaning that to me back then.
Has anyone seen the Woody Allen documentary on HBO Max?
I have.
No.
It's fascinating.
It is brutal. I'm someone who loved Woody Allen and just loved Woody Allen. I've seen everything. And this is tough to even say this, but it's like, to separate the art from that is impossible. There's so many things in there that you're sitting there and you can't deny these things, and like these are things that you're just watching these things happen. The pattern that happens, and it's tough. Like honestly, if you're planning to watch it, just make sure you don't have anything to do the next day, because it is so. I mean, it landed. I felt I've been kind of separating myself from his work for quite a while. I think most people have, but you don't understand that when you start to see it, it's your heart breaks for these people. And for where I am, I live in Rhode Island, so where this happened is only like an hour and a half from me, where Mia Farrow lives. And thinking about that, all this stuff was happening to these people, and to watch somebody else benefit. How can you go back to look at that? I do agree where you can't go back and say, hey, back when who I was back then, how it affected me then. But it's tough to go back, and it's even tougher because there's other people who worked in those films that did beautiful work and wonderful work.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and it's so tough to think about that. And those people who did those things, those things are kind of taken down with the ship. So where's the point you do? What's the point? Where's the point you divide that for yourself?
Woody Allen is all over his work. Like you cannot.
Yep.
You cannot take in a Woody Allen property without like feeling like you are in the room with Woody Allen. Like he is just.
Right.
It's like it's a sponge full of Woody Allen. And so I cannot engage with that because of the man. But something like Buffy, I mean, I found Buffy when it first aired in 97, 98. I would have been just done with high school. And for a nerd about the right age, a girl, to see that, it was so impactful and so meaningful to me. And I accept that mythology, and I've taken that mythology and integrated it into my life. And it is not linked to Joss Whedon. So I can unlink that. But
Buffy had a lot of creators too.
Yeah,
like our friend Jane Espenson and others. There's there were a bunch of people. There were a bunch of creators behind that. Unlike the Harry Potter books, where one person wrote all of that.
So it's like with each of these issues, like it's kind of something that like we each have to find the line in the sand depending on like what it is and who it is and what they were creating. Because especially something where it's a singular voice, that's a lot harder to stomach, because that you were getting their pure unfiltered thoughts.
It makes me think about like hindsight bias. Right, where a lot of times when I work with people, they romanticize the past. They say like they have a different view of it, and now that we have this information here with Whedon, with Weinstein, with everybody else, it's switching that perspective as well. So it's kind of interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, well, you see some of the warning signs pop up a bit, or it can just recontextualize some of the stories. There is a storyline on Buffy where Seth Green's character leaves because he's a werewolf, but the moral of the story, because like Joss Whedon used him as sort of this metaphor of like within all men there's this untamable wildness or whatever, and it's like, is it like, so is this your way of exploring the fact that you want to cheat on your wife? Because like that's kind of how it felt to me after learning about that. Like, is this werewolf thing your way of saying, baby, I may be smart and sensitive and fun, but fish gotta swim, werewolves gotta sleep around.
When you think about that show too, right? Like 3 women died giving birth to kids and like throughout the story arc.
Mm-hmm.
You see all the women with all these traumas, and all the guys are just getting healthier and healthier and healthier. And having these developments. And it makes you think about too, like in Firefly with Kaylee, like the whole reason she gets on the Serenity is because she's banging the other guy.
Yeah.
She sleeps with the mechanic and then turns out to be a better mechanic. So you see these kind of tropes, you know, throughout all the series now when you look at it with that different lens.
So much of it is how we internalize these identities too. You know, we identify, it's a feedback loop. We see a character, we identify with the character, and then we grow with the character as a little bit of a blueprint for a lot of things. And because we're doing that, it reinforces our connection to the character, and by extension, the creator. So to find out that the blueprint for, or at least a blueprint for a lot of you is something other than you thought it was, that you had idealized, it really challenges who you are.
Yeah, this is some of the kind of things that I thought we might be getting into in The Wizard, but none of the audience, I think it was just none of the audience comments ever steered us that way.
Yeah, they were all very much focused on Zack Snyder.
They were really focused on Justice League.
They were well.
I'm so glad I didn't have to talk about Buffy. I don't know anything about Buffy at all.
It would have been hard, yeah.
It's quarantine. It's hyped up. Everybody's still trapped inside more than usual. So a lot of people watched it for sure.
I still really want to do a Buffy book, though. What's that, Lenny?
I was going to say, Joss Whedon has done so much more than just Buffy. I mean, he was involved with the first Toy Story, developing that universe, you know? I mean, he was involved with the Alien. You know, he's been around Hollywood doing these things, you know?
Well, his dad was a writer in television. And what was it, like All in the Family? Or no, I think of Danny Bonaducci's father.
No. All in the Family.
All in the Family? Okay. Yeah. So his dad was a writer in television. So he's grown up with Hollywood around him his whole life, and storytelling. You grow up with somebody who tells stories, somebody who writes stories. You could be like Joe Hill King, who then is writing novels on his own when he's the son of Stephen King. Though using the name Joe Hill because he tried to make it on his own. He had a cooler middle name that he should have used. So Joss Whedon was one of those, because everybody was known for being a very good script doctor for fixing other people's stories. And
he was a punch-up guy.
Speed. He brought in humor to the film Speed. He fixed points in the plot that made no daggum sense. It's like, why are they doing this? And he came up with reasons. He did that in one of the Alien movies, and then it was the other way around. He wrote the script for the 4th Alien movie that then the director butchered, so the stuff Whedon had in there to make sense got removed. So there are plenty of things he knows about storytelling, probably too much by the numbers, because you remember back when we would watch Buffy, and I would predict to the episode when somebody would die.
Yep.
Because I knew enough of the kind of rhythm and stories he was following. And the only time I was off I was by 1 week, because we didn't know there'd be the bonus episode with the Cheese Man and the original Slayer after they beat the big bad. Yeah. That's why Forrest died 1 week earlier than I expected, because the big story ended 1 week earlier than expected. So and you feel it in his version of Justice League, where he's doing the by the numbers thing way too much. That's part of why it feels empty. All right, we have been at this between Wizard and this nearly 2 hours. And as much as there's some things some of us still want to talk about, I do think it's time to wind up.
Oh, this is great. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for joining us. You and Sam, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here and meet all you guys. And I'd love to come back anytime you'll have me.
Lenny and we always cross paths somewhere during San Diego Comic-Con and get our picture. No planning, but we will cross paths. And well, this would be 2nd year in a row we don't get to do that.
I know. I'm so mad. If the next comic convention, no matter where it is, if it's in Skokie, I don't care. I'm going. If it's in Hawaii, I don't care. I'm going, man. I invite you to come with me.
I hear you.